What if I told you that the reason you're not successful isn't because you're not working hard enough? It's not because you lack talent. And brace yourself, it's not even because you haven't found the right opportunity. Nope. The reason you're stuck is something much more counterintuitive, but far more liberating once you understand it. You're failing because you're trying too hard, and the more you chase success, the further it runs from you. Let's be honest, you've been there, grinding 12-hour days, saying yes to every opportunity, networking until your business cards are worn thin, and there's that little voice inside whispering, just work harder, push more, sleep less. Believe me, I've heard that voice too. But here's the problem with the hustle mentality the way most people think about it. It's a hamster wheel dressed up as a ladder. You think you're climbing towards success, but really, you're just running in circles, getting more exhausted. The ancient Stoics figured this out way before we did. Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, once said, "The sage does not attempt anything very big, and thus achieves greatness." Translation: stop forcing it. Create space for success to find you. In this video, I'll share the counterintuitive way to turn struggle into flow. Not the kind of success that burns you out, but the kind that feels inevitable and leaves you wondering why you ever thought it had to be so hard. By the end of this, you'll have the tools to stop chasing success and start attracting it. So, if you're ready to go from exhausted to effortless, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and let's begin. Chapter 1. Why the hustle culture is a trap. Let me tell you about the time I almost had a nervous breakdown over a presentation. This wasn't just any presentation, this was the presentation, the one that could change everything. 6 months of preparation, 400 slides, rehearsed until I could recite it in my sleep. I had backup plans for my backup plans. The night before, I was still tweaking slides at 3 a.m., triple-checking every font, every transition, every bullet point. My hands were shaking from too much coffee and too little sleep. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I barely recognized. Hollow eyes, stress acne, the works. And I thought to myself, this is what success looks like, right? This is what it takes. Wrong. Dead wrong. The presentation was a disaster, not because the content was bad, but because I was so wound up, so desperate to control every outcome, that I came across as manic. My desperation was leaking through every slide. The audience could smell it from the back row. That, my friend, is what the hustle mentality does to you. It tricks you into thinking that suffering equals progress, that if you're not stressed, you're not working hard enough. You become like that friend who tells you about their 80-hour work week like it's a badge of honor instead of a cry for help. The ancient Chinese had a concept called Wu Wei. It literally means non-doing or effortless action. It's not about being lazy. It's about working with natural forces instead of against them. Think of a river. It doesn't force its way to the ocean. It follows the path of least resistance, and yet it's powerful enough to carve through mountains over time. But we've been conditioned to believe the opposite. We think success requires suffering. We glorify the grind, celebrate the hustle, worship at the altar of no days off. And social media has made it worse. Everyone's posting about their 5 a.m. workouts and their 18-hour days, like they're competing in some kind of exhaustion Olympics. Here's what neuroscience tells us about this approach. When you're constantly in stress mode, your brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for creative thinking and problem-solving, goes offline. You become reactive instead of creative. You work harder, not smarter. You're like a car with the gas pedal floored and the brake on at the same time. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius, who managed an entire empire while dealing with plagues and wars, wrote in his journal, "Confine yourself to the present." He wasn't talking about mindfulness meditation. He was talking about not wasting energy on outcomes you can't control. See, when we're chasing success, we're always living in the future. We're thinking about the promotion we need to get, the client we need to land, the recognition we need to receive. But success doesn't happen in the future. It happens in the present moment, through present actions, with present awareness. Let me give you a real example. Steve Jobs, love him or hate him, understood this principle. When he returned to Apple in 1997, the company was dying. They had dozens of products, all mediocre. His first move wasn't to work harder or launch more products. It was to eliminate. He cut the product line from 350 products to 10. He said no to almost everything. And in that space, that deliberate emptiness, the iPhone was born. That's the paradox most people miss. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is stop producing. Sometimes the best way to move forward is to stop pushing so hard. I learned this lesson the hard way. After my presentation disaster, I took a different approach. Instead of trying to control every outcome, I focused on controlling my inputs. Instead of working 16-hour days, I worked 6 focused hours. Instead of saying yes to every opportunity, I said no to everything that didn't align with my core goals. The result? My next presentation landed me the biggest client of my career. Not because I tried harder, but because I tried better. If what you just heard resonated with you, give this video a like. And don't forget to subscribe, because every time I discover a new perspective on effortless achievement, I want you to be the first to hear it. Chapter 2. The Flow Formula for Effortless Success. I once knew a guy named Marcus who was the embodiment of hustle culture. If your brain just conjured up an image of someone checking emails at 11 p.m., meal prepping on Sundays like it's a military operation, and talking about optimizing their sleep cycles, congratulations, you've met Marcus. He tracked everything, his steps, his calories, his productivity metrics, his screen time. His calendar looked like a game of Tetris played by someone with OCD. He was the guy who would schedule spontaneous fun and set reminders to be grateful. Classic Marcus. At first, I'll admit, I was impressed. This guy had systems for his systems. He was like a human optimization machine. But then I started noticing something. Despite all his tracking and hacking and grinding, Marcus was stuck. Same job, same results, same stress levels. He was busy, incredibly busy, but he wasn't moving forward. And that's when I realized what the ancient Chinese meant by Wu Wei. Marcus was swimming upstream, fighting every current, exhausting himself in the process. Meanwhile, the most successful people I knew seemed to glide through challenges like they had some kind of cheat code. The first principle I discovered is this: clarity creates flow. When you're crystal clear about what you want, opportunities start appearing everywhere. It's not magic, it's selective attention. Your brain starts filtering for what matters and ignoring what doesn't. But here's where most people get it wrong. They try to get clear by adding more goals, more strategies, more vision boards. The Taoists understood that clarity comes from subtraction, not addition. Lao Tzu said, "In pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In pursuit of wisdom, every day something is dropped." Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly clear about your direction? I bet it wasn't when you were juggling 15 different goals. It was probably when you had one thing that mattered more than everything else combined. For me, that moment came when I stopped trying to be good at everything and started focusing on being exceptional at one thing. I wasn't a writer, a speaker, a consultant, a coach, and an entrepreneur. I was someone who helped people think differently. Everything else became secondary. The second principle is even more counterintuitive. Resistance reveals the path. Most people think resistance is something to overcome. The Stoics saw it differently. They saw resistance as information. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Here's what that means practically. When you keep hitting the same obstacle over and over, instead of pushing harder against it, ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? What am I not seeing? What path am I missing? I learned this from a friend who's now a successful entrepreneur. She spent 2 years trying to force her way into the tech industry. Door after door slammed shut, rejection after rejection. She was working 80-hour weeks, taking every course, networking like her life depended on it. Nothing. Then one day, frustrated and exhausted, she stopped pushing. She started paying attention to what felt easy, what people kept asking her for help with. Turns out she had a gift for translating complex technical concepts into simple language. Within 6 months of pivoting, she had 3 job offers and eventually started her own consulting firm. The resistance wasn't blocking her path, it was redirecting her to the right one. The third principle is what I call strategic patience. This isn't about being passive or lazy, it's about understanding timing. The Stoics believed in acting when action was needed and waiting when waiting was wise. In our instant gratification culture, this feels almost revolutionary. We want results now, success yesterday, recognition immediately. But nature doesn't work that way. Seeds don't grow faster because you water them more. They grow according to their own timeline, in their own season. Warren Buffett understood this. His investment strategy isn't about finding the next hot stock. It's about finding great companies and waiting, sometimes for decades. He calls it his 20-hole punch card approach. If you could only make 20 investment decisions in your lifetime, you'd be a lot more careful about each one. This principle applies to everything. Instead of sending 100 mediocre pitches, send 5 exceptional ones. Instead of networking with everyone, build deep relationships with the right people. Instead of launching every idea you have, develop the ones with real potential. But here's the part that ties it all together. When you combine clarity, attention to resistance, and strategic patience, something magical happens. You stop forcing outcomes and start creating conditions. You become like a gardener instead of a warrior. A warrior fights the environment. A gardener works with it. A warrior exhausts themselves in battle. A gardener plants seeds and trusts the process. A warrior measures success by how hard they fought. A gardener measures success by what grows. Marcus, by the way, is doing great now. He stopped tracking everything and started trusting himself, stopped optimizing every minute, and started protecting his energy for what mattered. Last I heard, he got the promotion he'd been chasing for 3 years, not because he worked harder, but because he finally had the clarity and energy to see the opportunity that was right in front of him. Chapter 3. The Art of Strategic Surrender. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds great in theory, but what about the bills? What about the deadlines? What about the competition breathing down my neck? Trust me, I get it. The real world doesn't always cooperate with ancient philosophy. But here's where strategic surrender comes in. This isn't about giving up or being passive. It's about knowing when to push and when to yield, when to act and when to wait. It's about working with reality instead of against it. The Stoics had a concept called preferred indifference. Sounds fancy, but it's simple. There are things you prefer to have: success, recognition, money. But your happiness and peace don't depend on getting them. You work toward them, but you don't attach your identity to the outcome. Epictetus, who went from slave to one of the most respected teachers in Rome, put it this way: don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Don't tell people you're not attached to outcomes. Show them by how calmly you handle both success and setbacks. This is the hardest part for most people. We want to control everything because we think control equals security. But the truth is, the more you try to control external outcomes, the more out of control you feel internally. I learned this lesson during what I now call my great client disaster of 2019. I had landed my dream client, a company I'd been trying to work with for 2 years. The contract was signed. The project was perfect. Everything was aligned. I was already mentally spending the money and planning my next moves. 3 weeks in, they pulled the plug. Budget cuts, they said. Nothing personal, just business. My first instinct was to fight it. Email the CEO, call in favors, make a case for why they needed to honor the contract. I spent 2 days crafting the perfect argument, gathering evidence, preparing for battle. Then I stopped. I asked myself, what would someone who truly understood Wu Wei do here? The answer was clear: let it go. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared about my energy more than my ego. Within a week of letting go, 2 better opportunities showed up. Clients who actually valued what I brought to the table. Higher pay, more creative freedom, better relationships. The disaster had cleared space for something better to enter. That's strategic surrender. It's not about being a doormat. It's about recognizing when you're pushing against a door that's meant to be pulled. But surrender isn't just about big setbacks. It's about daily practice. It's about surrendering your attachment to being right in every argument. Surrendering your need to control how fast the elevator comes. Surrendering your urge to check email every 5 minutes. Each small surrender builds your capacity for the big ones. Each moment of letting go strengthens your ability to trust the process instead of forcing the outcome. The ancient Chinese had another concept called yin and yang, the idea that opposing forces are complementary, not conflicting. In the context of success, this means that doing and not doing, trying and surrendering, effort and ease all work together. Most people get stuck in pure yang energy, all action all the time. They burn out, hit walls, create resistance everywhere they go. The masters understand that you need both. There's a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to speak and a time to listen, a time to push and a time to yield. Steve Jobs understood this. Some of Apple's biggest breakthroughs came not from adding features, but from removing them. The original iPhone succeeded not because it did everything, but because it did a few things extraordinarily well. So here's your practice. Start small. The next time you're stuck in traffic, instead of fighting it, accept it. Use the time to think, to breathe, to just be. The next time someone disagrees with you, instead of arguing, listen. Really listen. The next time a plan doesn't work out, instead of forcing it, ask what else might be possible. This isn't about becoming passive. It's about becoming wise. Wise enough to know when you're swimming upstream. Wise enough to recognize when resistance is redirection. Wise enough to trust that sometimes the best action is no action. Chapter 4. The Success That Finds You. Here's what nobody tells you about success, the kind that actually lasts, the kind that feels good in your bones. It's not something you achieve, it's something you become, and you don't become it by trying harder. You become it by trying truer. The Stoics understood this. They didn't chase external validation or material accumulation. They focused on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts what they need. Marcus Aurelius, literally the most powerful man in the world at the time, wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." But let's be practical here. I'm not suggesting you meditate your way to $1 million or visualize your way to success. What I'm suggesting is something more subtle and more powerful. When you stop desperately chasing success and start focusing on becoming excellent at what you do, success starts chasing you. Think about the most successful people you know personally. I don't mean celebrities or billionaires. I mean people in your actual life who seem to have figured it out. They're not stressed. They're not constantly hustling. They're not posting about their grind. They seem calm, present, like they know something the rest of us don't. Here's what they know. Success is not a destination you arrive at. It's a byproduct of who you become along the way. When you focus on becoming someone who naturally delivers value, opportunities start appearing. When you become someone who solves problems elegantly, people start bringing you bigger problems to solve. When you become someone who can be trusted with small things, you get trusted with big things. But this requires a fundamental shift in how you think about time and results. Instead of asking, "How can I get what I want faster?" start asking, "How can I become the kind of person who naturally attracts what I want?" The answer is always the same: mastery. Not in everything, but in something. Deep, focused, obsessive mastery of your craft. The kind of mastery that takes years to develop and makes what you do look effortless to everyone else. Lao Tzu said, "The master accomplishes without striving." From the outside, it looks like luck. From the inside, it's the result of years of deliberate practice, deep study, and patient development. Here's the beautiful irony. When you stop trying to be successful and start trying to be excellent, you become both. When you stop chasing opportunities and start creating value, opportunities start chasing you. When you stop networking to get something and start connecting to give something, your network becomes your net worth. But excellence isn't just about skill. It's about character. It's about becoming someone people want to work with, someone they trust, someone they recommend to others. The Stoics called this virtue, but you can call it integrity, authenticity, or just being a decent human being. In our hyper-connected world, reputation travels at the speed of Wi-Fi. One difficult client interaction can torpedo months of marketing. One moment of integrity can open doors that no amount of networking could budge. I learned this from watching a colleague I'll call Sarah. She wasn't the smartest person in the room, wasn't the most charismatic, didn't have the best connections, but she had something else. She always did what she said she would do, when she said she would do it, how she said she would do it. Sounds simple, right? But in a world where people overpromise and underdeliver, where following up is a lost art, where showing up on time feels revolutionary, Sarah stood out like a lighthouse in a storm. Within 3 years, she had more work than she could handle, not because she was the best marketer, but because she was the most reliable. Clients didn't just hire her, they referred her. Colleagues didn't just respect her, they wanted to work with her. Opportunities didn't just come to her, they competed for her attention. That's what happens when you focus on becoming instead of getting, when you plant seeds of excellence instead of chasing fruits of success, when you trust the process instead of forcing the outcome. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" Stop wondering, "How can I succeed?" and start wondering, "How can I serve?" Stop thinking, "What's in it for me?" and start thinking, "How can I make this better?" I guarantee you'll be surprised by what starts showing up in your life. Not because you manifested it or attracted it through positive thinking, but because you became the kind of person who naturally magnetizes opportunities. The success that finds you is different from the success you chase. It feels different, it lasts longer, and it comes with a sense of inevitability rather than anxiety. It's the difference between forcing a door open and discovering it was unlocked all along. The final truth about effortless achievement. So here it is, the final truth about success that nobody wants to tell you because it doesn't sell courses or coaching programs. The best success isn't earned through struggle. It's not achieved through grinding or hustling or optimizing every minute of your day. It's not found in the next strategy or the perfect morning routine or the ultimate productivity hack. The best success is attracted through alignment, when what you do matches who you are, when your work serves something larger than yourself, when you stop swimming upstream and start flowing with your natural current. Success becomes inevitable. The moment you stop chasing achievement and start embodying excellence, that's when everything changes. And here's the kicker. People will notice. They'll see you operating from a different place, with a different energy. They'll see you handling pressure with grace, setbacks with wisdom, success with humility. That's your competitive advantage, not your resume or your network or your strategy, your inner state, your ability to remain centered when others are chaotic, focused when others are scattered, patient when others are desperate. So I want to ask you, what's the one thing you're going to stop forcing from today on? What's your first move in this new chapter where you trust the process more than you control the outcome? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if this shifted something in you, if you felt that moment of recognition that says, "Yes, I'm tired of fighting so hard for what might come naturally," then it's time. Hit that subscribe button. Join me. We're building something different here. A community of people who achieve through alignment, who succeed through service, who win by becoming the kind of people who naturally attract what they need. Because true success isn't about what you accomplish. It's about who you become in the process. And the life you build from that place of authenticity and excellence, that's the victory no one can take away from you.